I started the build by making 20 sheets of hardened paper. 18 were folded long ways and 2 were folded sideways. Around the time I started building this, I was running low on my normal 110-pound cardstock, but I found a decent alternative in my house. This red paper you're looking at is actually a thick construction paper. It's slightly thicker than my usual cardstock and a lot sturdier, so I used this one for the core of the sword. The downsides are that it's a little harder to work with and it tends to warp a lot more easily. I'll show you what I mean later. The hardened sheets were arranged to look like this. There were 4 layers, with each layer made up of 5 hardened sheets. I traced the template on and cut it out using a sharp blade. This template's made by Returacan, but I've made my own adjustments to it. Feel free to play around with the template as you wish, because in the actual show, the animation for the sword is not consistent at all. It changes almost every scene you look at it. So, you're free to pick and choose which version of the sword you want to build. The support structure was made by hot gluing jumbo popsicle sticks onto the blade. When finished, it should look something like this on both sides. This is what I meant when I said the paper likes to warp easily. You'll see this happening when working with other papers, of course, but nowhere near this extreme of a level. To fix this, you'll have to bend the sword in the other direction and apply the popsicle sticks onto the sword as it's bent. You can do this by clamping it down or by having a second person bend it for you while you apply the supports on the other side.
So this is what the blade looks like now when it has supports on it. These are just 4 layers of popsicle sticks that are staggered onto each other. And at this point, you can, swing the blade. You can, you can sort of put it through most of the stress tests that it can go through. But you are nowhere near finished with this. You actually have to, finish paneling this sword. And paneling the sword will help with a couple things. First of all, it will make the sword last longer, obviously. You have more material around it, it's thicker, and the internals are getting less damaged. And what paneling the blade does is that it stops it from torquing. And what that means is right now I can take the blade and I can twist it along its central line, and paneling it will prevent that from happening. And at the same time, if you want your sword, I guess, to slash through cardboard, have some fun, I guess, if you want your sword to be able to do that, paneling will also help with that, because when you panel, you are left with a beveled angle on the edge of your sword, and that will literally leave you with a wedge that will be able to cut through. I say cut, even though it's sort of a stretch, I guess. You're just kind of like bashing it, but it will help because it is a wedge, and right now the edge of this isn't exactly a wedge, it's just a straight line with a step. So having paneling the actual blade will help a lot. This side's hilt isn't done with paneling yet. I have to finish paneling this side of the hilt, and the hilt is only going to be 1 layer because you don't need 4 layers.
After the supports were finished, I started paneling. You'll need 9 sheets of hardened 110-pound cardstock with 7 folded long ways and 2 folded sideways. I traced the outlines of the sword onto the paper and cut it out. Then I used regular school glue or PVA glue to attach it to the blade as neatly as I could. You'll have to hold it down onto the edges or use clamps to hold it down as it dries. For each side, 3 long sheets of hardened paper were used for the blade and 1 wide sheet was used for the handguard. Before covering the handle, remember to take a scrap piece of paper and cover the end like this. Afterwards, the handle is covered by taking a long sheet of hardened paper and wrapping it around while gluing it in at the same time.
So I'm starting to cover up the edges of the sword. As you can see, this edge is not covered yet, but this side of the blade, this edge of the blade is covered for the most part. For the blade, I cut out strips of paper. For the blade, the strips of paper were 1.5 centimeters, and for the hilt, these were 2 centimeters wide. And it's just a simple process of taking some regular Elmer's glue, or PVA glue if you don't live in the US, and just applying it to the strip and then just covering it over. Optionally, what you can do is sort of crease along the center of the strips to make it look like you have an actual edge on the blade. You can kind of see I did it over. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but over here, kind of see that I kind of oops, that's my knife. I kind of crease the edge along so it looks like it's actually the edge of a blade. Probably hard to see, but that's that. Yeah.
Right, paneling is complete. Got all the edges on there as well. Excuse me. Only thing that's left is to add the little plates, the decorations. Most people like to put like a little X or a cross shape sort of pendant. I don't know what to call it, but there is something like that on a lot of people's builds. And I don't exactly want to do that because in the anime it never really showed with that. See? So yeah, I never exactly saw anything like that in the anime, so I'm trying to model this after the anime version. And yeah, since I didn't see it there, it's just not going to put it on. Sorry, if you haven't noticed, I'm a little bit sick right now. But yep.
Alright, so I have the detail work done on one side. This side still has just this. But this giant L looking piece was just drawn and cut out of a piece of 4 layers of hardened cardstock. But this circle, I just cut out a regular circle. That's 4 layers of hardened cardstock. And if you guys can tell, this circle is actually slightly smaller than the circle that's actually on the thing. I purposely made it slightly smaller than I wanted it to, so I can cut it into fourths, and then I can spread out each piece a bit as I stick it on the blade. To cut out this circle, I used a bridge compass. It's basically a compass, the type you draw circles with, except instead of a pencil on the other side, there is a blade. So you're able to cut in a circle with the center point. Now, I don't know if it's just me or if X-Acto just doesn't make these bridge compasses very well, because it keeps bending on me and I don't get the cuts that I want to. But that's okay, because you can just put this on the underside and it's completely hidden. All you have to do right now is, like I said, just cut the circle into fourths like this, spread them out a little bit, and stick them on. And you will be pretty much done at that point. So yeah.
And here it is, the finished product. No stress test this time. Sorry guys, this sword is meant to be a gift for a friend and I wouldn't want any damage on the sword at all when I'm giving it to them. Overall build time was 32 hours, and that's not including the amount of time I needed to wait for the hardened sheets to dry. Thank you for watching, check out my other videos, and subscribe for more.